All right, well, listen, let's get started. I appreciate everybody joining us. My name is John Harms. I'm the CEO and founder of Millennium Systems International. Hanging out at home and social distancing like everybody else. I even just kept the hat on today to just make it nice and comfortable. Jay looks like he showered, so that's good since he's our presenter today. Well, I said looks like he showered. I don't know, but Jay's a good friend of mine. He's obviously very well known. He's been on History Channel, on Fox News. He's written several books. His latest book is Overcome, that you can see here, and you can see in his background. I bought the book for every employee in our company. It's an amazing book, and the timing of it couldn't be better, which is why I asked him to come on behalf of Millennium. And talk to not just Millennium clients, but anybody in the beauty industry that wanted to come and listen to his message about overcoming in a time when so many things are uncertain and we all kind of feel frozen. And he calls it getting off the X. And I don't want to steal a lot of his thunder because, like I said, the message is just absolutely perfect for right now. So I'm going to turn it over to my good friend Jay, and I want everybody to enjoy his conversation and talk with you today. Thanks, Jay.
John, thanks, brother. And it's great to see everybody. So I hope you're all doing incredibly well. This is, I'm getting, hang on one second. I want to cancel that. So, yeah, I hope all of you are doing incredibly well. Obviously, in this crazy social distancing world we're living in, I was talking to John about and just to be able to, I know I'm missing interacting with people. So that's been one of the things that I know I want to get back out there. I want to be standing on a stage and interacting and helping people where I can. So it's definitely been kind of a crazy road for me when I look back. I mean, roughly a little over 12 years ago, I was serving in Iraq and got on the receiving end of a machine gun, and I got shot 8 times between my body and body armor, stitched across the body armor. I took a round in the elbow. I took a round in the face, and literally was laying there in the middle of just this vicious firefight, and just thinking to myself, where do I go? How can I affect anything that's going on in this moment? And we actually have a phrase for this in the military, and it's specifically in special operations. When you are on the receiving end of all this gunfire, explosions in an ambush, any kind of attack, incident, sniper fire, we call that the X, which is exactly what you guys see on your screen. And it's just fascinating to me because as I've gone through my life, after I left my special operations career, I started working with wounded warriors. I started working with companies. I started working and coaching individuals. I began to realize that everybody in life gets on the X. We all get in this moment where we're absolutely overwhelmed, where we just don't know what to do. And we feel exactly like I felt in the middle of that ambush. And it is interesting right now because America's on the X. Business is on the X. I can't tell you how many clients and how many individuals are reaching out to me. I mean, we just talked to a friend of ours today that their company's probably going out of business just because he owns a woodworking company. He does woodworking stuff for specifically military personnel, making things like what you see in the background here, shadow boxes, and military members aren't getting together. They're not doing retirements. They're not creating mementos for events. So obviously he doesn't have a way to go. His company is on the X. And one of the most fortunate things, though, that I learned in my career was oftentimes when we think there's nothing we can do, the reality is you have a lot more control than you think. And what we have to be able to do is get off the X. And that's specifically what we're going to be talking about today, because even though I was in a military ambush, shot up by the enemy, every single one of you gets into life ambushes. And right now, make no mistake, Kung Flu is a major life ambush. It is disrupting all of us across the world, across the country, in your businesses, anything that we have to interact one-to-one with people, speaking, getting together, coaching. Obviously, within the salon industry, it is a very hands-on industry. So right now, we are all in this kind of major life ambush. And no different than where I was in my ambush, where I felt absolutely overwhelmed. You guys are feeling a lot of the same things. How many of you thought this? You know, in the middle of this ambush, as you're thinking to yourself, you're watching your revenue go down, 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 down to probably almost nothing for many of you. There's no hope. There's no hope. And that's a common thought, that when we're on the X and we're in any kind of life ambush, or, oh my God, there's nothing I can do, as we watch the world implode around us. Or the last one I often hear a lot, it's totally out of my control. And I know there's so many of you out there that have thought these things. So I want to take a break. Down at the beginning of your screen, or down at on your screen on Zoom, if you're not familiar with the Zoom interface, there are two different categories. There's one called chat, where you guys can actually chat and talk to each other. There's another one called Q&A. Q&A is where, while I'm talking, if you guys have a question, something piques your curiosity or something, man, I'd like to know more about that, write that in the Q&A section, and then other people are going to see that if you pull that window up, and you can actually vote on it. So you can drive that question. So maybe there's a question somebody has, you know, and everybody says, I want that answered. So just click on it, it'll drive it to the top, and at the end, I'm going to answer all these questions. So, because that is something that I can control. But how do we do that? How do we drive forward when we're feeling so overwhelmed, when we feel like everything's out of our control, when we feel like there is no hope? Well, today, I'm going to teach you guys how to regain control and how to affect change in the areas where you can. I'm going to teach you something that I call the 3 rings to excellence in chaos. And if any of you are Lord of the Rings fans, I also like to call this presentation 3 Rings to Rule Them All. So that's kind of one of my, I just like the fact that we have the ability to drive forward and still be positive and still make a difference. So here are the 3 things we're going to talk about today. I want you to write all these things down. I want you to take them to heart, because with these things, one, you're going to be able to control what you can. If you have a disaggregated workforce, like so many of us too, my team members are not coming in. You know, John's at home. You guys are all doing this from your house. How do we continue to maintain the camaraderie within our team? And how do we continue to exude leadership? So we're going to do that through 3 areas. Number one, we're going to do it through the overcome mindset. We're going to talk about how we build that strong overcome mindset. We're going to talk about productivity, because obviously, if we're not making progress, then, you know, obviously that impacts us mentally. We're not getting off the X. And then the last one is leadership. So the first one I want to talk about is what makes that difference. It is that overcome mindset, guys. I'll tell you what, it almost doesn't matter if you're productive, if you have leadership, if you are not willing to grind forward and get off that X. And that was one of the most critical things in the moment. When I was on that X, in that ambush, I had to figure out, well, what can I control? And I had to bring some hope into the equation, because without hope, people don't put forth any effort. They just think it doesn't matter what I do. And I tell you what, it doesn't matter what situation you are in, you always can make a difference. And it may be tiny, it may be incremental, it may just be your attitude, but this is what the overcome mindset is about. So there are 3 components to the overcome mindset. That number one is you have to be willing to get off the X. You have to have that mindset that no matter what comes your way, no matter what adversity, whether it's Kung Flu, whether it's some competitor decides to open a salon right next to yours and suddenly he's stealing your business. I've heard it where salons have lost an employee and it went south and they stole the actual client list, and then they were poaching the clients. I mean, these are things that you can't lay there and feel sorry for yourself, no different than we can do it in, you know, this pandemic. We have to get off the X. We have to focus on how we drive forward. Number 2 is we have to react in order to overcome. And I'm going to talk to you guys about that. And then the last one is a little acronym I call LINF. And I'm going to tell you what that stands for here in a couple of minutes. So guys, the first one is just what we talked about. It is getting off that X. And the way we do that is we have to react in the face of adversity. And REACT is just an acronym on how we deal with crisis. And it gives us a step-by-step process. Everybody likes a process. Everybody likes a sequence to be able to go through. And the React methodology will work in any crisis. It'll work right now. If you are having a minor ambush, as I'd like to call it, and when I talk about a minor ambush, it's like a mental ambush. Maybe I know that there's a lot of people that are so discombobulated right now in this pandemic, and they keep trying to get on a new schedule. And then they get off track because they're inundated with the news, or they're depressed, or whatever it is. They keep getting off track. It's never too late. When you have that little ambush, you can use this methodology to walk through. So the very first thing you got to do is you got to recognize your reality. Why are you feeling that way? Why are you depressed? Well, we're in this pandemic. My business has been shut down. I'm by myself. All those things. It doesn't take a whole lot to figure it out in this. But no matter what, we have to recognize and accept. We have to articulate, hey, man, I'm on the X right now. I got to figure out a way to get off the X. Number two, you got to evaluate your assets. One of the most amazing things we have right now in this day and age is technology is one of our assets. So we may not be able to be in the salon itself, but maybe it's time that we're building our relationships. Maybe we're reaching out to all our clients and saying, hey, this is Jason Redman Salon, and I just want to let you know, I may not be able to, cut your hair or take care of you right now. But what I am able to do is I've created a social network where every night we're getting together and we're just talking to each other. We're bringing people together because right now, man, this whole thing is overwhelming to all of us. We feel alone, we feel isolated, and we want to make sure you know that we care about you. So this is an asset. This is in your inventory. Maybe you have money in an account. Maybe you have amazing digital skills. Maybe you have the ability to do marketing. These are all the things that are in your arsenal, in your inventory, and that's what we know we have to bring to the table. No different when I was in that firefight. I thought about, well, I have a gunship, I have a Marine quick reaction force. These were things that I thought about in that moment. Number three, we got to assess the possible options and outcomes. And this is where we have to get real with ourselves. Oftentimes people have unrealistic expectations of what's going to happen. And the reality is we got to go through these steps. If we know we're in a crisis, if we know what our assets and inventory are, now we need to look at, okay, if I take option A, what's that outcome going to look like? If I take option B, we also have to recognize if we choose an option and we execute it, the outcome may not be the same, and we may end up back on the X again, and that's okay. That's where we start looking at those other options and outcomes. We continue to get off that X. We continue to use the React methodology. Number three, choose a direction and communicate it. So here's one of the most critical things. When we get into a crisis, whether it's mental, whether it's physical, whether it's business, there's a natural tendency that we will go through the first three steps, and then we just kind of continue to think about them. We go in this circle. But the reality is we have to choose. We have to decide which way we're going to go, and then we want to communicate it. And there are two things that get accomplished when we do that. Number one, we have chosen something and we've committed to it. So there's a level of accountability. People now are expecting us to do this, and it gives us a little more impetus to get off that X. And number two, it gives people hope. Remember we talked about, there's no hope. When you tell people we're going to do something, when you take action, it actually gives people want to be doing something instead of sitting there feeling sorry for themselves. And it does the same for you. So choose a direction, communicate it. And then the last one, you got to take action, guys. You cannot sit there. You cannot feel sorry for yourself. Nobody's going to come along and save you. You have to get up and execute. It's one of the most critical things. So I guarantee you, if you follow this process, any life ambush, whether it's this one, whether it's something that's going to come along in the future, the average person will go through about 5 major life ambushes. This is a big one. I've been talking to all kinds of friends in almost any business. We're all getting impacted. And here's the thing. If you need to take it to a shortcut, focus on the first one and the last one, R and the T. Recognize you're in a crisis, take action. Just move. Just move that body, move yourself, move your mind. It doesn't matter. Those are the two, and then reevaluate, go through this process. So here is the thing, guys. The longer you sit on that X, the harder it is to get up. And I'm sure many of you are finding this in this crisis. I'm meeting a lot of people who had big aspirations in the beginning. I don't know about you. I've been in quarantine now for 22 days. And I've noticed, even for myself, here I am. I'm this guy that focuses on leadership and productivity. it's hard to stay motivated when we're out of our routine and we're trying to do things in this little bubble. But the longer you sit on the X and feel sorry for yourself, it's like quicksand. So the faster you get off that X every time and you establish a new routine and you're actually making things happen, the better it's going to be. So this should be your motto. When you start getting stuck, when you start feeling sorry for yourself, where you don't know where to go, we're going to get off the X. So what does LINF stand for? I've met a lot of people that have been saying to me that I'm one of them. I'll tell you, I haven't been making this statement. I'm going to come full circle, but I'm one of them in saying that, man, my business was on track to have the most successful first quarter that I've ever had in the history of my company. And within about a 96-hour period, every speaking engagement was canceled. And this may turn out to be the worst quarter I've ever had, which, you know what? What can you do with that? You know, all you can do is get off the X and drive forward. That's the overcome mindset. So what I'm hearing a lot of people say is, oh my God, this is not fair. It's not fair. But guys, I have a secret to share with you, and it's what LINF stands for. Life is not fair. Guys, we can do everything right. You can be absolutely perfect, and sometimes life just not unfold in the manner that we think it's going to. And this is definitely one of those things. Nobody ever could have predicted this massive financial crisis that's occurring across the country, and the medical impact, the health impact. So the bottom line, though, is you don't have the luxury to sit there and feel sorry for yourself when life is not fair moments come along. The overcome mindset says, I'm going to get up and drive forward. Yes, life is not fair at times, but what's it going to accomplish by laying there and feeling sorry for yourself? Nothing. SEAL training and special operations training, if it does nothing, it teaches you this lesson, that life is not fair, that you can do everything right. And you don't have the luxury of laying there and just feeling sorry for yourself and sitting on the X. Why? Because it's not going to accomplish anything. As a matter of fact, it's only going to delay your ability to move forward. Remember what we talked about? The longer you sit on the X, the harder it is to get up and move. Most people out there will focus on this. When they've done everything right and they're facing the prospects of, oh my God, my business is going to shut down, or I'm isolated from everybody, or I don't know what to do. And they focus on this. Life is just not fair. It's so unfair. I want back what I had. I want my booming business. I want all my clients. I don't want this social distancing. Well, you can't have that, because obviously right now we're in this global pandemic. So stop focusing on this fact that life is not fair, because it's not. I mean, that's just the way it works. Sometimes unpredictable things come along. If you can wrap your head around that fact, that's a solid overcome mindset, and you are ready to drive forward and get off the X. So what are the next levels? The next 3 rings, of course, is productivity. So productivity is our ability to continue to move things forward. Human beings, all of us, thrive on structure and progress. And these are the 2 critical things that we need no matter what we're doing. If we have zero structure in our life whatsoever, it's almost impossible to create progress. And at the end of the day, we crave these things as humans. Sitting around in your pajamas all day long, binge watching Netflix or playing video games 24/7 doesn't accomplish either of these things. And at the end of the day, as humans, we just need tasks to feel alive. You know, we feel good about ourselves when we accomplish something. If you want to watch and really understand this, there's a great speech by Admiral Bill McRaven, who contributed to my book, Overcome. He was a SEAL admiral in charge of the Bin Laden raid. And Bill talks about, in a great speech he gave for Texas A&M, that's called Make Your Bed. So if you want a good speech to motivate you, watch that speech. But it comes down to being productive and having that structure and progress. He talks about every single day, make your bed. You're creating structure, you're creating a habit, and it creates progress because you've accomplished something. If the only thing you do that entire day is make your bed and get dressed, you're actually still accomplishing something. And it leads us to want to do more. This is why it's so critical to our lives, and especially when we've been thrown out of our routine. So right now, I want you to think about these things and how you implement it, not just in your business, but in your personal lives. So I teach 3 points, 3 rings of excellence within productivity. 1, you have to be a point man for your life. And I'm going to explain that in a minute. 2, you've always got to be looking at how do we move the needle. And 3, GSD. I'm a big fan of acronyms, and I'm going to explain that acronym to you guys in a minute. So number 1, you have to be a point man for your life. In the military, and some of you may be going, well, what is a point man? In the military, we have individuals that are called point men. It is their job to be navigation experts. They're incredible navigators with maps, with compasses. They understand how to read terrain. They understand how to look at obstacles and maneuver around them. They're geniuses with GPSs and navigation systems. And we rely on them to lay out our route when we're going to a target or we're getting out of an area. The problem is in life, we don't have point men. If anything, maybe you have a coach who helps you navigate your life. But there's 2 critical things we need in order to be the point man in our life. You need a clearly defined destination, and you need to set a course. And right now, there's a lot of people that don't have these things. Our lives have been turned upside down. We don't know where we're going, and we don't have a direction. So you've got to choose one. You've got to choose one. Even if it's, I'm going to continue to build my client base, I'm going to continue to interact with them, I'm going to take care of them. That is identifying a destination, and your course is what you're doing along the way. And I'm going to accomplish that by every day I'm going to call 50 of my clients and just check on them, see how they're doing. You may not be bringing in revenue for the company right now, but you are setting yourself up for the other side. And oftentimes that's what we have to do. So you have to be the point man of your life. Nobody's going to come along and save you and set this path. You have to do it for yourself. And if you are a leader, it's even more critical to help others understand where they're going. So that's number 1. You have to stay the course. Number 2, we constantly need to be moving the needle in our lives. We need to accomplish these things. And I teach something about moving the needle. When I talk about moving the needle, it is forward momentum every day, forward progress every day, whether it's physical, whether it's personal, whether it's professional. And that's why I teach something called the rule of 3 Ps. And what that is every day I get up. I don't care what it is. I don't care what's going on in the world. And I write down, I think to myself, what are the 3 Ps I'm getting done today? So physical, I'm going to get this workout in. I'm going to do a chest workout, or I'm going to do a leg workout, or I'm going to do a cardio workout, or I'm going to do a high intensity workout, whatever it is. And I got to tell you guys, right now in this pandemic, it is so critical to be moving your body. There's going to be a lot of people who come out the backside of this that you're not going to have seen in a while. And it's like there's going to be a whole lot of Jabba the Hutts and Golems that are walking out. I'm a sci-fi nerd. So, I mean, that's the reality. They've hunkered down in their house and they're not getting out. They're not taking care of themselves. They're stress eating. They're stress drinking. Take care of yourself. Move this body. When we are stressed, it puts greater strain on our body. That's why I always encourage people, move 20 minutes a day, at least 3 days a week. There's so many online workouts you can do. That is forward progress. You're going to feel better about yourself physically, mentally, and you're not going to put on, I mean, the joke out there I've heard, the pandemic 30, the COVID 30, whatever it is. We don't want to do that. It's so hard to take that off. So take care of yourself. You're going to feel better. Number 2 is personal. Following the rules of 3 Ps is personal. What can we do to move the needle personally? Maybe it's our taxes. That's something my wife and I knocked out this weekend. Maybe it's cleaning that closet. Maybe it's, I need to polish up my resume. Maybe it's, I think I'm going to launch a new business, whatever it is, that's going to move the needle personally. Maybe it's reaching out to friends, family. These are one of our personal goals. And the last one is professional. How are we taking care of ourselves in our business? Are we doing an online course? Are we getting another certification? Are we working on some marketing copy or whatever it is for our business? Because guess what, guys? This storm will end. It will end, and we want to be ready. So every day, if we're moving the needle, then we know we're still making progress. And we can go to bed at night. We can sleep good knowing that even though there's a little bit of chaos in the world around us, we're still moving the needle in our lives. And the last one is GSD, which stands for Get Stuff Done. Or of course, there's another phrase for it, if you want to be a little more harsh with it. But at the end of the day, productivity is about getting stuff done. So I know there's a lot of people out there that set a course and they know this is where I want to go, and they lay out some goals, but they don't execute. They get sidetracked. The news is on 24 hours a day in this cycle. We're being inundated with negative information. People are bored because they're alone, so they're calling all the time. You got to get good at breaking down an amount of time. You've established your 3 Ps, and then you're executing. You're getting these things done. Leaders who are productive execute. They get these things done. So guys, I want you to focus on that. I want you to focus on the 3 Ps for yourself, for your family, for your business. And then I want you to focus on that, the 3 rings of excellence say that you get stuff done. All right, guys. So now we're coming down to the foundational level. Leadership is the problem. And the good news is leadership is the solution. And I know there's a lot of you who are saying, well, I'm not a leader. Well, you actually are, because at the end of the day, it comes down to you. And the greatest asset you have, whether I'm laying in the middle of a firefight being shot at, or I'm in the middle of a pandemic facing my business being potentially shut down from a lack of revenue and this unknown time frame, is leadership. It is on you. Your ability to A, have a positive overcome mindset, B, get things done and be productive and establish moving the needle in your life and executing. It all comes down to leadership. It's your leadership, your ability to get off that couch, your ability to get out of that chair, your ability to turn off that TV. That is all leadership. So how do we do that? I teach 3 rules of leadership. So the 3 rules of leadership are: number 1, you have to lead yourself. And guys, we are in unprecedented times for your ability to lead yourself. Most people are not very good at leading themselves, and they focus more on their ability to lead others. So they'll build a team of people, and if I tell others what to do, I'm going to be moving the needle in my life, and that's awesome. But in crisis, the most critical things for us to do is our ability to lead ourselves. Because in crisis, we're being overwhelmed with the bullets and bombs, not on the battlefield. These are the bullets and bombs of life. And none of my guys could save my life out there. They could help me, but at the end of the day, I had to focus on keeping myself alive. And that's exactly what I wanted to do. When I was in that firefight, all I wanted to do was go to sleep. It was like the greatest fatigue from all the blood loss I had. Everything in me was telling me I've got to go to sleep. Jay, just lay down, just go to sleep. And I knew that if I let myself go to sleep, I would never wake up again. That was the only thing I could control. And leading yourself is all about impacting what you can control. And that's one of the most critical things to understand when we're leading ourselves. We can affect the 3 Ps: physical leadership, personal leadership, professional leadership. Executing those things, moving the needle, comes down to you. You have to do those things. So during this time of crisis, that is the number 1 thing you want to focus on. Here's the great thing about leading yourself. When you lead yourself, other people will follow you. So that leads us right here to point number 1 about leading yourself. This picture was taken after I graduated from U.S. Army Ranger School. And the funny thing about going to Ranger School, most people think being all shot up was the hardest thing that I ever went through. But the reality is, earlier in my career, and that's really what this book, The Trident, is all about, I had a leadership failure. I was a young, arrogant leader. I was egotistical, and I was more focused on rule number 2, leading others by telling them what to do. And hey, look at the rank on my collar, or look at me, I'm the boss, than leading myself. Because you will build amazing teams of overcomers who want to accomplish incredible things if they see how well you lead yourself. People will naturally follow you if you give them a reason to. And that was the most sound leadership advice I was ever given. And I learned it when I went through U.S. Army Ranger School. I finally had to humble myself, and I had to come to understand that if you truly want to be an effective leader, if you truly want to move the needle in your life, if you truly want to be that person who can say, I GSD every day, it comes down to your ability to lead yourself. And when I made this pivot in Ranger School and I focused on leading myself, I realized that it became naturally easier to lead other people. Guys, Right now in a crisis is when we need to lead ourselves the most. Our families need to see us leading. Our families need to see us setting the example. If you are getting up and you're still trying to eat healthy, if you're still trying to work out a few times, if you're still moving the needle, guess what? Your family will follow the example. Your staff, your team members, if you're all together and you're pushing them, follow the example. But it starts with you. If you're telling them to do it and you're not doing it, well, they're not going to do it either, especially in crisis. So, all right, guys, number 2 is lead others. This is one of the most amazing things. When you are leading yourself, people will naturally follow it. It's that one rule, and I want to hit it one more time. People will follow you if you give them a reason to. And in a crisis, this is one of the most critical things, your ability to lead yourself, because 80% of leadership doesn't have to do with this hole, or 80% of leading others doesn't have to do with this hole in the bottom of your face. It has to do almost with everything you did prior to that moment, prior to you opening your mouth. It is the example you set. It is the fact, are you an individual who is productive? Are you an individual with an overcome mindset? Are you an individual with that positive attitude that can affect others? I learned that as I graduated from Ranger School and I went back. And about 2.5 years later is when I got injured. I was all shot up in that firefight, and it started a whole nother journey of understanding what it is to overcome and lead. And one of the lessons that I learned is you can lead from any situation, whether it's in a pandemic, whether it's when you're watching the potential for your company closing down, or even from a hospital bed in a hospital after suffering severe injury. Because what I learned is your attitude will determine the outcome. And people are looking for you to lead. That's what leading others is about. It is about motivating and inspiring them. It's about explaining to them that it is not the end. Even though so many people will focus on that, they will focus on the beginning where they think about there's no hope, there's nothing I can do, it's all outside of my control, but it's not. You see, you can still control your attitude. You can still motivate and inspire people. And it's not being unrealistic. I mean, it's not saying, hey, no matter what, this business is going to thrive. I mean, we're going to do everything we can to make that happen. But obviously, there may be a different outcome. But the bottom line is an overcome mindset, a productive mindset, a mindset of leadership will figure out what that pivot is as the battlefield, as the problems develop. So this lesson got hammered home to me when I was laying in that hospital bed. You see, I was laying there feeling sorry for myself after I got there. And the nurse came in and she said to me, hey, there's a young Marine that would like to meet you. And I said, no. And I couldn't talk. So you have to think, I was trached, I'm wired shut. They're feeding me out of a stomach tube. I'm a mess. I'm so weak. I'd have nurses help me to go to the bathroom from all the blood loss I had. And I'll be honest, it was right in the very beginning, and I was kind of feeling sorry for myself. And she said, yeah, there's this young Marine. He'd really like to meet you. And I'm like, no, I'm not interested. You know, this nurse, she'd been around Voodoo Warriors a while. She knew when to push. And she waited a few minutes. And she said, hey, this young Marine, he's still out there. He's still out there, and, he'd still like to meet you. And I'm like, no. She waited a couple more minutes, and she finally said, hey, this kid, he's still out there. He's waiting for you. And finally, I'm like, fine, right into her, fine, send him in. And this young Marine wheels into the room. He's in a wheelchair. He's missing his leg below the knee, and he is frenetic. Like literally, he's like a ball of energy. And he rolls into the room. And I mean, to explain to you what frenetic ball of energy, I describe it as if the Energizer Bunny was on crack and had been dipped in plutonium. That was kind of, that's your perfect example of what this kid was like. And he rolls in, he's got big eyes, and he's like, hey, LT, it's so great to meet you. Oh my God, you guys are so cool. I work with SEALs in Fallujah, and you guys taught us how to do Overwatch, and you taught us how to clear buildings, and you taught us how to shoot better, and you came in and you helped us do some targets, and you taught us how to do better first aid, and you taught us how to do this and this and that, and it was awesome. And I was like, whoa, like overload. It was like too much for me as I was laying in that bed, with my pity party. And I didn't know what to say. And I did what most of us do in times of crisis or when we're struggling and we're on the X. I focused on the negative. Now I looked down at him missing his leg and I wrote out, "Oh man, you're missing your leg. That sucks. I'm sorry." And I showed him my paper and he looks at it, he looks down, he looks at me and he looks at the paper and he looks at me and he goes, "Missing my leg?" He's like, "You got shot in the face." He's like, "And you're still here." And I was like, boom, like mind explosion, because I realized something in that moment. You see, he came into that room looking for motivation. He came into that room looking for inspiration. He had worked with SEALs. He expected us to be leaders. And he didn't think about the fact, oh, you're laying on the X in this hospital bed. What he thought is SEALs are leaders. SEALs are productive. SEALs have strong overcome mindsets. And I want to come in and see this guy who's going to have that same thing. He could care less I was in that bed. That is what leading others is about. Despite those overwhelming feelings of being on the X, we can still step up and motivate and inspire others, even from a hospital bed, even in a pandemic, even in the overwhelming crisis of, oh my God, what's going to happen with my business? And here's the great thing, the benefit of leading others in the face of adversity. It has this cathartic effect on us. You will feel better when you choose to be positive, which leads us to rule number 3, which is we lead always. It's so easy to get stuck on the X when we are overwhelmed. It's so easy to feel sorry for ourselves. It's so easy to lay there and think all those things in the beginning. There's no hope. There's nothing I can do. I have no control, but you always have control. The most powerful gift you have is a choice. And this is what leading always is about. It is choosing positivity in the face of negativity and adversity. And guys, if you can flip that switch, I guarantee you life, it won't be easy, but you will constantly move forward. You will constantly get off the X. And the difference between people who are ridiculously successful and those who don't is the people who are ridiculously successful are ones that get off the X the fastest. And if you follow those rings, I guarantee it'll happen. So a few days later, as I was laying in that hospital bed, I had a couple of people come into my room. And they basically started, it was one of these overwhelming moments where all these doctors and nurses are in the room and they're rattling off everything that's going on with my care, which was pretty overwhelming. They were telling me that they were probably going to have to amputate my arm because of the amount of damage. I had no use of my left hand from the amount of nerve damage, also contributing to their decision to amputate my arm. I was, obviously on I was trach, the stomach tube, and I'm just trying to digest all this information, thinking many of the things that all of us have thought. Oh my God, this is all outside of my control. What can I do? And right about that time, I had a couple of people that had been in the room talking that started to have a conversation off to the side. And I caught bits of their conversation. Their conversation went something like this. It was like, oh my God, these young wounded warriors, we send them off to war. They're never going to be the same. They're broken, they're battered. Jason will never be the same. He's never going to be able to get back out there and be that successful guy he was. And I remember sitting there thinking, is this true? Is this me? Is this the future for me? And it's easy to get sucked into that mindset when you're on the X, when we're facing all the chaos and uncertainty around us, just like we're facing right now. But guys, you always have a choice. Every storm you encounter in this life always has an end. Despite all the darkness and the thunder and the lightning and the chaos, somewhere out there, way beyond the horizon, the sun is still shining. It is still out there. There is an end to all of this. And the question is, how do you want to make it to the other side? Are you just going to lay there and barely survive so that finally when the storm passes, you're staggering forward, on wobbly legs and, with a giant beard, totally not ready for the future? Or are you going to choose positivity in the face of negativity and impact the things that you can impact? That is one of the biggest things So choose positivity in the face of negativity and adversity. And that's exactly what I did in that moment. I said, no, I'm not going to feel sorry for myself. I'm going to choose positivity. And I wrote out this sign. It said, attention to all who enter here. If you're coming in this room with sadness or sorrow, don't bother. The wounds that I received, I got in a job that I love, doing it for people that I love, defending the freedom of a country I deeply love. I'll make a full recovery. What is full? That's the absolute utmost physically. I have the ability to recover. And then I'm going to push that about 20% further through sheer mental tenacity. This room you're about to enter is a room of fun, optimism, and intense rapid regrowth. If you are not prepared for that, go elsewhere. And we signed it to management because, I don't know, it made sense at the time. But we chose to be positive. And this is the most amazing thing. I wrote that sign as a statement that I was not going to feel sorry for myself, but it had ripple impacts that have gone on to impact millions of people across this country. That original sign earned me an invitation to meet President Bush in the White House. He signed it. We had it framed. It now hangs in the Wounded Ward at Walter Reed. Wounded warriors touch it before they go to surgery. Secretary Robert Gates wrote about it. First Lady Michelle Obama wrote about it twice in her book. So this is the impact of choosing positivity in the face of negativity and adversity. You don't know what the impact is going to be. You don't know what the end is going to be, but we do know that every storm will end. And by choosing positivity, it has these ripple effects. That is leading always, and it will absolutely make the difference for everyone around you, and most specifically in your life, to get you off the X. Guys, it is in our darkest times that we need the most fortitude and best attitude. But the thing is, it is at these times when it is the hardest to muster these critical traits. I can assure you, by following these three things, it will make a difference. Now, I want to close with, on the leadership side, with something I call the leadership fence. Right now, we're in crazy times. I teach something called the leadership fence. It's about communication with higher leadership and lower leadership. Right now, the leadership fence, imagine it, the fence being that we're separated from all our people. You know, the fence is this COVID-19 crisis. We can't interact with people. We can't interact with our employees. But here's the good news. You can learn to lead. And learn is an acronym. So number one, I want you to follow those three rules of leadership in this crisis. Lead yourself, be productive, have an overcome mindset. Number two, you've got to engage your teams through trust. Right now, rely on your teams. I know for all of us, I mean, I'm closely looking at my cash flow and payroll. I told my staff, I'm like, look, you know, I can cover this far. I'm hoping I can get this loan, but let's all work together. Let's be creative. I'm trusting them to help me come up with ideas because we're all in this together. And I'm continuing to communicate with them, which is number three, active communication. Don't get sucked into this idea that, you know, you're overwhelmed and you don't want to communicate with your people because you don't know what to say. Be positive. You know, they recognize these are hard times. They're not expecting you to come out with the holy grail of pass. Instead, they just want to be on the same page. Transparency, and that's what active communication is. It's back and forth, and it's being transparent and letting them know where we're at. That respect, have respect for them, have respect for the positions. They're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling overwhelmed. You both have respect to each other. And then the last part of learn to lead, there are no shortcuts. There is no magic sauce. There is no magic pill we can pop that suddenly is going to get us out of this equation. It's going to be continuing to grind forward. It's going to be continuing to get off that X. Any of us can learn to lead, guys. You can use this in your family. You can definitely use this in your business, but it will make all the difference in the world. If you follow those three things, guys, the three rings to excellence and chaos. Overcome mindset, following the three components. We're going to get off the X. We're going to react. We're going to accept that life is not fair. Productivity, we're going to be the point man for our lives. We are going to move the needle every day. And we're going to what? We're going to get stuff done. We're going to execute. And then leadership, guys, we're going to learn to lead. We're going to lead ourselves. We're going to lead others. And we're going to lead always. If you follow these things, guys, you will not just survive this crisis. You will not just survive this pandemic, but you will thrive from it. It may not be the outcome you're looking for. I know for so many of us, they're like, but I want my business to be successful. It may not happen, guys. I mean, there are certain things that are outside of our control. Control what you can. But what may happen, and I so often see this, is in these times where we encounter a the end moment, so often it becomes a new beginning. It becomes a new opportunity. And we may not see it when we're in the storm, when we're in the crisis, when we're on the X. But 3 or 4 years from now, we will look back and we will say, you know what? It was so uncomfortable when I went through it, but it was one of the best things that ever happened. And I never would have gone in this direction if this crisis had not occurred. You guys may be running new businesses. You may be running a new component of your business. You may have launched, pivoted, and created a whole nother revenue stream, which has become the primary revenue stream for your company 3 or 4 years from now. We don't know unless you get off the X and make that difference. So guys, those are the 3 rings of excellence. What makes the difference? It's the overcome mindset. If you guys do that, I assure you, you will come out of this and be successful. All right, I'm going to take a look at these questions. Melissa Gross said, will this be available to review? Yes, we have recorded this, Melissa, and you will be able to go back and watch it with the same link that you used to sign in. You'll be able to go watch the video. Oh, Ruth answered that. I'm sorry. So let me, hang on. Let me come out of this so I can go back to stop the share so I can go back to full screen. Julie, can we have the name of the speech again so I can look it up, please? And thank you. The name of the speech, actually, you guys are getting a speech that is not, this is new content. This was actually, a lot of this stuff comes from my book, but the way I package it together specifically for crisis situations, this is something new that I was going to be presenting out in California last weekend. And you guys are actually the first group to get this live. So the 3 rings of excellence in chaos is the name of the speech, or my funner name is 3 rings to rule them all. So, oh, and you were talking about the Admiral McCraven, make your bed speech. So we talked about all that. Answer live. So Raquel, thank you very much. So Ruth, let's see. Frank, thank you. Really great. I appreciate that. And if you guys have any questions on any of this, that's right now, I'm going through these questions. Ruben, Jessica Small said, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this. And I love Make My Bed. It's one of my favorites. I never skip a day. And what is the name of your book? My books are Overcome. So if you're looking for a book that gets really deep in the weeds on everything we talked about today, this is the book. This book is all about how to get out of a crisis or a life ambush. And then how do we lead ourselves so we're better prepared for future crisis that's coming. And then my other book, which became a New York Times bestseller, is The Trident. And The Trident is really about that leadership journey as a young leader and failing and coming to understand really those 3 rules of leadership to be a better leader. So let me answer that. Thanks for the great information, great speech. Will I be able to share with my managers? Yes. You guys will have the video after this. You'll be able to log in within maybe 20-30 minutes. The video will be uploaded and you'll be able to access it. So well done. Thank you so much. So Glory, thank you so much. Awesome. So Katie saw in Arizona, loved your first book and appreciate you and your gift of motive. Katie, thank you. God gave me a second chance. I am trying to make the most of it. We all can get out of these crises. It's a mindset thing. You guys follow these things, I guarantee you. Right now, I got to tell you guys, it is so critical. I've been telling everybody these 3 Ps. If you do nothing but accomplish the 3 Ps every day, you will be moving the needle and you will come out of this crisis productive. You will thrive and not just survive. So, and the 3 Ps, once again, are physical, personal, professional. Those are the 3 Ps, moving the needle every day. Todd Shays, what did you think of the depiction of the raid in Zero Dark 30? I watched the movie. I thought it was pretty good. So I'll leave it at that. Kimberly, really inspirational. Thank you. Thank you. I enjoyed it. We all need to get off the X and win the war with COVID. Yes. The sooner we can do that, the better for all of us. I know all of us are hungry to go back. And it may, guys, and here's the reality. I know there's a lot of people out there that are thinking to themselves, when is this going to be done? They want this definitive answer. Don't allow yourself to buy into unrealistic expectations. You know, this may take another several weeks. It may take several months. You be prepared for that longer term. Always think worst case scenario when you think of your options and opportunities in the React methodology. That way you're not caught off guard. We've already thought ahead to that worst case. And that way we're able to maintain hope and motivate and inspire, and we prepare for the long run. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So, and if we're already thinking through that, then we're ready for it. So I'll just caution everybody to that. So, Janny, thank you. Great energy. Thank you. Loved your book. Ready to thrive. I appreciate it. So, all right, guys, are there any other questions? We've got a few more minutes. If there's any questions related to maybe motivating your team in the crisis, or if there's any questions on, hey, Jay, how do I do this? Or how do I do that? Feel free. If any of you guys are interested, there's maybe you're feeling alone. Couple of things that I offer. One, every night during the quarantine, we're doing a Facebook Live and an Instagram Live on my social media. So my Facebook is Jason Redman. My Instagram is Jason Redman WW. And every night, my wife and I, who I call the long-haired admiral, and sometimes my kids, we just go on and we talk about our day. Here's what we got done. This is how we moved the needle today. And we're honest. We're like, you know, today was an off day. Gosh, it was just hard to be motivated. We still got things done. You know, we stayed disciplined, but it was a harder day than others. And then, you know, we just try and have fun. We try to provide a community for people to be together when everybody's living alone. So we do that every night at 8:30. And then I also have my Overcome Army. There's an Overcome Army Facebook group. You can take a look at that. We've opened that group up. It used to be a paid membership group. We've now opened our Overcome Army Facebook group up to individuals. And then I still have my paid coaching membership group, which is on a separate platform. And it focuses on all these things. We put classes out. The class I'm putting out tonight, which will go live Wednesday nights. Every other Wednesday, I put out a new class for my group. And tonight's class is on the second rule of the Overcome Mindset, how we stay positive and we don't allow ourselves to mentally quit, how we stay ahead of that insidious little slide where we're not physically quitting, but we're sliding down the path of mentally quitting. So, all right, guys, are there any other questions? I've put out a lot of info. John, do you have anything you want to add?
Having a problem clicking there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, man.
Cool, man. I just appreciate you coming on and sharing your experience with our clients. You know, what would be something that you would suggest as far as, so a lot of people on here are stylists or owners or managers, and I think we've got a really good message on, you know, motivating our staff and communicating and honesty and trust and keeping that stuff at the forefront. Any suggestions on what their mindset should be looking forward focus for their clients, getting ready to make sure that they're staying positive, and that when this floodgates finally open up and everybody goes in for their haircuts and things, how they can actually prepare their staff and also prepare and work with clients that are coming out of this?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, so primary, we start looking at what does the world look like once we get out. We're already planning ahead for that. And we're nurturing those relationships. I mean, we're making sure, like we talked about, I mean, you have time, why not reach out to your clients? Why not create, I mean, you could do your own Zooms with your clients. If it's nothing but what I'm doing with my guys, I mean, you know, my wife and I are doing 8:30 at night. It's an opportunity to talk and communicate and maintain those relationships so you're ready afterwards. I would also say day to day as you're preparing, we all have our primary focuses in business. Right now, especially in the salon industry, the primary focus is, whether you're a leader, it's managing everybody who is taking care of the clients. If you're an actual stylist, it's taking care of the client themselves. And right now we may not be able to do that. So we start looking at, well, what are the secondary things that would be beneficial right now, but also would be beneficial later down the road? And some of those things is maybe I could get smarter in marketing. Maybe I can start looking at, there's so many programs out there that are either free or cheap to make amazing marketing materials that you can do right through your phone. I mean, there's video programs, there's graphic design programs. Now's the time to play with that stuff so you can ramp up ahead of time. Maybe you do a haircut campaign where you're cutting, where you're saying, hey guys, we're doing 20% off for, haircuts as soon as this, you can go ahead and take it now. And then, we're going to have you on a list where we set you up for, once we're free, once this pandemic has been lifted, we bring you in and, you're getting that discount. So not only are you trying to retain your existing clients, you're expanding potentially future clients, but all that's going to come down obviously to marketing. People have to know you're out there. So it's just looking at what are the secondary things that I can get stronger in that maybe I didn't have the time when I was so busy focused on the running of the business itself. And I think that's what all of us should be looking at.
Yeah, I keep really encouraging our clients. I've been doing this for 33 years, and a lot of owners are behind the chair. They don't have time for a lot of the things that our software does. I mean, it's a great opportunity to run through reports and see, oh my God, I didn't know this report existed. Wow, there's this feature called points and rewards that we can actually set up that motivate our clients to spend more or try other services, and then they get points, and it's a win-win. There's things like that. Recounting their inventory. For once, you actually have a static salon that's not dynamic and crazy things going on. You can go in there, count your inventory, finally get it under control, figure out what's selling, what's not selling, bundle up the stuff that's not selling, get it ready to sell as Easter baskets or Mother's Day. There's so many things, and it's all back to what you talked about, Jay, just getting off the X, being that leader to say, I'm going to do something this week. I'm going to do something Monday. I'm going to do something Tuesday. I'm going to do something Wednesday. We all have plenty to do. And again, a month from now, 2 months from now, however long it ends up being, we're going to look back and go, man, what if I had that week, those 2 weeks again? How would I have managed my time or done things differently? And you brought up marketing. There's so many different things that software can do to help people. And again, whether it's our software or anybody's software, it does a lot more than what we use it for. And this is a great opportunity to learn your software better, figure out what you can do differently, and to your point, get off the X and move forward and get something done during this time. So I really appreciate your time, Jay. Love your feedback. And if you want to make a final statement, that'd be great. And then we will be making this available on our community site and via social as well.
Yeah, John, there are a few more questions. I'll just answer those real quick. Michelle Ames asked, what was the end and learn? It's no shortcuts. So there's no magic pill to getting the things done that we need to do. Most of the time, you got to grind and just navigate through it. So there's a lot of leaders, and I was one who tried to find shortcuts, and they don't exist. Melissa asked, are your books available for purchase? Yes, you can go to my website, getoffx.com, and my online store is on there. I have Overcome merchandise, and I have both my books. If you want to buy one of my books, make sure, if you want it personalized, if you want me to write to Melissa, please write that in the notes, because if you don't write that, I don't know if you're buying it for yourself or somebody else. So I don't personalize if there's no notes. Kimberly asked, do you have a website with additional videos? I do have a YouTube channel that I have videos. And I also have a new online platform of courses that we just recently launched. And I'm building courses now. We actually, here in the next couple of days, we're actually launching a Overcome book study guide that comes with videos and interactive that comes with the course. And we're going to be launching that, where you can actually sign up for a signed copy of the book, and then I will send you a download for that course. Anything else? So, okay, John, I think that is it, man. I really appreciate you, and everybody. Just remember, guys, control what you can, build that overcome mindset. You know the rules of leadership, follow the 3 Ps. and you will move the needle, and all of us will come out of this better. It may not be the outcome that we all thought it was going to be, but sometimes that becomes a blessing in disguise.
I agree. Thanks, Jason. I really appreciate it. And all you're doing for our clients, but also for our employees too. We have you again tomorrow for our employees exclusively, and we really, really appreciate that weekly motivation from you, buddy. All right, you guys,
Yeah, man.
go check him out.
All right, guys, I'm out. Get off the X.